let's say contemporary design, as some people say exists, versus contemporary art. You can only define contemporary design because you know your enemy is contemporary art. Second, you don't know how to define contemporary art. If you don't know if you don't know the limits of the thing you're positioning yourself against, then of course it's very difficult to define design if you don't know what's art. What Arthur Danto said a long time ago, I think it's still very valid today, is that art is some kind of a set that is blurred, limits of which are blurred. So imagine a circle within which you think are the properties of art. Well, the edges of it are so blurred, it's hard to define that set. But it's not over yet. This set is still expanding as we go, and infinitely expanding. So speaking of design and trying to define design, I think it's a very futile activity. It's a very difficult task to define contemporary design and distinguish it from contemporary art. It might not be from, let's say, the magazine point of view, because also magazines need some kind of a categorization. Also journalists need some kind of a base ground to write articles about, because it's when it's dogmatic, it's easier. It's easier to take a stance when something is very clear. It's very difficult to write. It's very difficult to make a magazine if you don't know your target group, if you don't know the subjects you're dealing with. So this categorization seems inevitable, yet I don't think this is the answer to the current situation. It's more a convenience. William Blake said of art, by defining it with rather a strange question or a sentence, he said, "Beauty is useless." And I also think my honeycomb vases are useless, because in this case the form doesn't follow function, but their function is to question. And I think it is as valid of a property for a design object as it is to serve. When I made the paper vases, I mean, what is it for? What is it to hold? When I did the honeycomb vases, it's the contrast between the ephemerality of human achievement versus the longevity of the material itself, and also the eternity of natural forms like the honeycombs. And where does this human activity stand in the eye of eternity? And it sounds like, and it is not like a tagline saying Libertiny was here in a graffiti. It's rather a question, and I think that's the sole function of my pieces, is the question whether what I do is relevant. And I don't see the restriction to limit myself to these ideas only from my own field. I see this strategic creativity being broader than the context of the modern understanding of the word design. If I had to sum it up, it is what I said in other interviews before. For me, it is a strategy to dress up intellectual investigations into aesthetic propositions. What I am basically is a little child that just wants to play, and I'm not bothered to categorize myself and be restricted, God forbid, to do only what market tells me to do. First and utmost is my passion to do things that I want to do in my studio, results of which may manifest themselves in industrial design or can manifest themselves in art. These things are defined by markets. This is not up to me. I can choose these markets, and I choose them wisely for the sake of the projects. I do not restrict myself to only cater to bodily needs, to cater to the need for an object, because that is very misleading sometimes. The needs are not catered to by them being asked for by the public. You deliver functions and you create functions. You basically come up with new needs by defining a new function. And somehow from the moral point of view, I don't like this stance where new drugs, new addictions are created by creating objects that you could be without, but because they exist and they're very desirable and tempting, they become a very essential part of your life, and suddenly there is a need for it. Therefore, more industrial designers spend a lot of effort fulfilling that function, thinking it is what people need. It's the same with what you have now with design art. They may get a lot of publicity, but are they going to stand the harshness of time? Are we going to talk about these things 20, 50 years from now? There is this strange urge to collect everything right now of everything that has happened. There's some kind of an obsession with documenting everything by everyone. We take cameras everywhere. Everybody takes pictures. Everybody takes the same pictures. You go to an event, you go to a sport event, you take a picture, you upload it into the net. How many pictures of the same thing has been taken? There is this, also from the point of view or stance from museums and collectors. They seem to try to collect everything by everyone, not to miss a single thing, and as if not to fail to look from 20 years from now, I should have bought this piece. If it is important, buy it in 20 years from now because you know for sure it's important. So what does unfortunate favor to this whole situation is also collectors themselves and also market itself. I think the crisis is a good thing, and it will only, it will leave the things behind that are not important, and will the things that are important will be underscored, highlighted. Yeah. I don't know. They might not be as successful in the beginning, but they will find its way upwards. If you want some kind of a forecast, it's like weather forecast. You know that it's not going to happen the way they say it. So this is basically a futile ambition to say what will happen. But I have this ambition to present and to use everyday objects and to look at them just the way you can look at sculpture, and get something out of it that is beyond the function. Because what we get now from the products of industrial design efforts is purely body related. You get some kind of a subjective, emotional attachment to it via brand or advertising, but yet it is not, and it cannot be so heavily metaphysical as it can be in art. And what I hope for design to become is some kind of a return to Renaissance, where an artist was also an architect, was also a painter, was also a sculptor, but also an astronomer, a poet, a physician, a vivisector, basically a scientist in every field. And this is what really inspires me, that we could have a return from particular into some kind of a enriched, Renaissance artist, which can deliver to society more than each particular individuals. And I think this is what we miss, some kind of all-around creative artists that yet I can contribute to the design of a chair, but I can also do a public sculpture, and I can also make a mural, but it is all about being empowered by your own ideas and believing, finding that strength into you, that what I have to say and what I'm doing is worthwhile. First of all, what you need is some kind of a skill, because I cannot skill. Yeah. I don't accept people who just have opinions but don't know how to execute them, don't know how to have them outsourced if you cannot execute it, how to have them properly outsourced by someone else who is skilled, or how to properly communicate your ideas. I studied painting for 3 years and I loved it. It was great. Maybe if I wasn't a sort of what I am now, I would be doing painting, but I would be doing it in some kind of scientific way, finding the limits of the painting. But return to Renaissance.
Sounds like a good idea.
We'll see.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome, Alex. It was good.
And I maybe see you again somewhere.
Well, we see you again.